not to read the introduction, and that's what I get. So I'm not even going to ask you if you can hear me, because you can, right? Okay, just checking. So there's a really great quote that John LaPointe uses all the time who runs Side Street Projects. And I think it's by Oscar Wilde, and it's called, "History is made by those who show up." So this audience, since you showed up, are making history.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do tonight is talk about 11 things which I have learned in the process of doing community organizing, engagement, etc. Sheila Pinkel is an artist who titled one of my lectures for her class and called it Confessions of an Arts Organizer. And I've actually thought that was pretty apropos. So I kind of went through my history of 30 years of doing projects and came up with a couple of things that I thought might be interesting or important, or things that I learned. So, and some of them might be really obvious and some of them might not. So, 1, keep it local. The idea that local issues generate sustained involvement by a broader audience and fuel larger global actions, I think is a really important idea. We're always looking at the really big picture, but I think that actually when artists work locally and they get a lot of committed people together, that actually it sustains something much further and actually affects global change a lot more than a larger kind of national situation. So keeping it local, I think, is a really smart idea. Number 2, don't do it alone. Start a collective or a collaboration. Collaborations, I know, are a pain in the ass. But it's actually really, really great to gather voices to do a project or to get some sort of idea across instead of trying to do it by yourself. So find other people that actually have really great skills and other things that you don't, and make something work. I think the other interesting thing is that look beyond the sort of obvious places to do social interaction, such as museums or art fairs, which are now engaging in sort of socially relevant practices. Look beyond them and find your own voice in your own territory. The third one is stop making art. Now, I know this is going to freak you all out, but not everybody that goes to art school ends up making art for the rest of their lives, at least in the traditional way that we think about that. So my idea is that when you go to art school, you learn to think critically in really interesting and important ways. So consider infiltrating institutions, become an arts administrator, where you want to see changes made. Work your way into a position of power, and then negotiate and educate with all your wisdom. The more artists in every aspect of our culture, the better. You may have a lasting and more sustaining impact than your artist peers. And it may be a much more radical move than to actually be a traditional artist. 4, treat colleagues with respect. Contrary to what a lot of artists believe, curators, galleries, and funders of the art world are not merely a support structure for artists. They are rather partners in a creative pursuit. So when you're working with these people, it should be a partnership. It shouldn't be an entitlement situation where you sort of expect to receive something from other people within the arts field. And the art world doesn't actually owe you as an artist. It should be actually more of a sort of collaborative, participatory process, and you'll actually learn a lot more and get a lot more out of your projects. Having good relationships with colleagues is really important, and collaboration can be gratifying to both parties. Listen to what others have to say, consider it carefully, and also consider your own role in the relationship and question that all the time. I think that if you're perceived as incredibly self-important, that people get bored really fast. Okay, also those people that you partner with have opinions of their own and aren't in the business of giving deference to ego. Number 5, don't be selfish. Many artists I know are very secretive about the things that they know and about the things that they share with their peers. So for instance, don't send a proposal to a gallery if your work doesn't really fit. Or don't send a grant application to something in which your work doesn't fit and not tell any of your friends, in which they would be perfect for that situation. I can't tell you how many times I see this. So the idea of being secretive is really a bunch of bull. The idea that you should actually share those resources with your friends means that somewhere down the line something will come back. But the idea of keeping everything so close and trying to sort of organize your work around a grant is really a bad idea. So just don't do it. Okay. Join a board of directors at a local arts organization or a different kind of organization that you really care about. It's interesting because you actually have a say in what takes place, and that's an amazing activist position to take. But on the other hand, don't join a board if you can't collaborate or work with others, or if you're always right. Do what you say you're going to do. Now, I've been to many openings, as is everybody in this room, and I can tell you that there's a lot of times when I'll go to an opening, but I have an event later, and the artist never shows up. They're just not there. They show up maybe 2 hours late. There's a lot of artists I know also who actually show up to almost everything late. Now, one thing I have learned is that when you show up late, you throw a wrench into everybody else's activities. And everybody else has to change everything in their day to accommodate you. This is not a good activist position to take. You actually should do what you say you're going to do and be on time. And it's actually a good idea to come to your own openings. Because if somebody goes across town in Los Angeles and you are not there, they might not come back the next time. The other suggestion I have is to not get drunk at your own opening. So, the other thing about doing what you say you're going to do is, let's say your life is totally nuts. Like most everybody who teaches at CalArts, I have 3 jobs. And if you have a hard time keeping track of what you're supposed to be doing, I highly think that you should consider having a staff meeting with yourself every Monday. Now, every business and everybody who's doing anything has staff meetings. You as an individual artist, if you can't get your shit together, you might want to have a staff meeting with yourself to sort of organize your life. Okay, number 7 is be professional. Now, an event is a very important time to have your shit together. Most viewers come to see you, not just the work, as I talked about before.